I always think like, that's super awesome to make 800,000 a year, a million in a year. But once you saturated those Fortune 500 companies, now we go on to year two, where you're able to do the same thing. What if you could just do that once and then just walk away and just live off those residuals?
Welcome to Rep Matters, a podcast for sales professionals who are eager to build their business acumen and become top performers. In each episode, your hosts, Zoya Segelbacher and Caroline Jones, explore the real-life experiences, obstacles, and triumphs of salespeople. With an emphasis on authenticity and storytelling, listeners gain valuable insights into the strategies, mindsets, and skills that drive success in sales. Let's get started.
Hello, and welcome to another episode of Rep Matters. I'm Zoya.
And I'm Caroline.
And this episode is brought to you by Marketers in Demand. Marketers in Demand has in-depth videos, podcasts, and articles from some of B2B's most in-demand marketers. Today, our guest is Ty Smith, Agent Channel Manager. Ty is a nationally recognized and award-winning channel manager with over 18 years in the telecom industry. As a channel manager, Ty specializes in teaching current and aspiring entrepreneurs in how to build and grow their own IT companies by selling products and services from the largest tech companies across the world. Ty has spoken at various live events and about channel sales and the channel sales industry, the ways that people from underrepresented neighborhoods can utilize channel sales as a free entrepreneurial pathway to build multi-million-dollar businesses, their own IT companies. And he's built a really great community. That's how Ty and I actually got connected, just organically on LinkedIn. He invited me to join a group of really smart, really ambitious people who were getting together. So super grateful for that. And we are so excited to have you join us today and just get some time sitting down with you.
Yeah, definitely. Thank you so much. I really appreciate being here. And it's such an honor to be interviewed by you both. So yeah, this is going to be awesome.
So excited to have you, Ty. Thanks for joining us.
Yeah, thank you.
I would love to start, if you don't mind. Can you define dry utilities and your industry for us first? I think we need to get some definitions out of the way, and we want to hear your story from there.
Yeah, definitely. So essentially, I am a channel manager for the telecommunications industry, which has numerous names and jargon and plenty of different terms that people use. So really what I do is I help people become resellers of telecommunications services. Largely that is internet or things that are internet based, but it also extends into things that are more geared to cloud and just where your data ends up. So if we're talking about things like, dry utilities, that's really a commercial real estate slang that I use to essentially relate to commercial real estate people, because when a business is opening up a new location, they are generally going to need 3 or 4 major utilities. So there's your wet utilities like your water and your sewer, and then you have gas, and then it's also your considered dry utilities, which is your internet. So it's kind of a tag phrase that I use to kind of get in with the commercial real estate crowd, because they are very, very important to this whole ecosystem that I'm going to explain, during this podcast. But just for me in my whole past, so I started off in just a regular, just sales role. I mean, I started way back in the day. I mean, back in Radio Shack when we used to, sell, just Comcast and DirecTV and all the different, internet providers, satellite internet, cellular phones. So I did that for quite a bit. It was 7 long years that I was there, and it wasn't just really just selling the services. It was also selling the back end equipment and really getting in the weeds with a lot of customers on, just solving their solutions. So what I mean by back end equipment, I'm just talking about just the actual wires. Someone has a big house and they have a another location that's outside, and they want that wire run. So that really kind of got like my hands dirty on like solving like those simple questions of how do we get Wi-Fi out here? How do we get Wi-Fi there? I ended up actually working for a cable company directly. Ended up working for Comcast because it was just a happenstance that I was in the store and there was a Comcast employee who heard me talking about their products and was kind of confused actually, because he was like, why don't you just work down the street at the Comcast store? So ended up basically getting a job, at Comcast directly. I did phone sales and did that for about a year to year and a half. And it was a pretty cool experience. Got to kind of see the life of, I guess phone sales nowadays, they call it, SDR and BDR, but, back then it was just considered call center sales. I mean, and then after that, I ended up going out into the other side of the USA. So I'm born and raised in Massachusetts, but I moved out to San Diego and I started working over at Cox just because I wanted just beach life experience. I wanted to just experience the other side of the United States. And from there, did the same thing, phone sales, but I started moving up in the ranks and I became a supervisor. Our call center had closed and back in about 2014. So ended up coming out to Vegas, and in Las Vegas, that's where I from there got into more so the management side of the telecommunications industry. And I started working with indirect sellers and resellers, specifically on the residential side. But that was really the first time that I realized that there are people out there that don't work for cable companies or tech companies that resell services. And essentially, it was really just cell phone providers that I was working with. So maybe your local cell phone stores, maybe there was a couple retailers that had the license to sell our products. Maybe it was a Best Buy or a Walmart or stores like that. But one unusual day happened on my way into the office where I actually ended up meeting somebody that was basically holding a meeting inside of a big, huge room. And I saw all these people in suits and none of them worked for the company. And they were all talking about, just casinos and hospitals and just all of this like high end telecommunications, like issues that they were trying to solve. It was about probably 50 people in the room. And I had no idea what this was. And I was asking like, hey, like, what is this? And they were like, hey, it's channel sales. And I didn't know what channel sales was. I was just like, hey, this is something new. I think it's related to what I do. And they were saying, hey, they're indirect resellers. These are people that sell, corporate solutions. They work with businesses that have multiple locations all over the USA. They work with companies worldwide and they basically just sell any product under the sun. So I was pretty intrigued by that, but being in residential, I knew nothing about the business products. So it wasn't until the pandemic hit. And that's where I actually started to really try to find ways to entertain myself and my team from home because we all got kind of shuttered inside. So I just brought up some modules of, wide area networking and just, cloud solutions and just all of these big terms. I knew no idea what they were, but I was like, hey team, we got to stay at home for 6 months. We got to entertain each other. So let's just learn it together. And while I was doing that, an actual role opened up on my side, which basically became the channel manager role that I have now. And I started talking to the hiring manager. Hey, this is what I do. I'm teaching my team these complex technological solutions because I'm kind of bored. And my director at that time was just like, hey, like, this is what the actual role is. Like, you should apply. This is really what a channel manager does. So I took their word for it. I applied, became a channel manager, got to the industry and just found out that there's this entire ecosystem of over 100,000 plus resellers worldwide that are making really, really good money selling products and services everywhere to everyone. And it just scales from software to hardware to everything you can imagine under the sun. But I also realized that within that, there's also some challenges with getting the word out there. There's some challenges with diversity. There's some challenges with just basically making it inclusive so that everyone knows about it, knows how to get in. So that's where this year I said, I'm going to come out and I'm going to start talking about it, start doing podcasts like this, and hopefully get more people aware of this industry.
We love that. I absolutely love that. So your journey is really neat because you've been really close to it for a long time, right? Like starting all the way back at Radio Shack, like you've been dealing with this kind of technology. So I like where you ended it, right? That there's this really amazing opportunity, but it's hard to find out about. So like, how does a person, even for your team, when you started enabling them, like where were you going to find this information to bring back to them?
Yeah. So it was actually Google. Ironically, it was Google and YouTube. There really wasn't a lot of information out. And I really didn't know what I was looking for. So I would just literally watch a video and I'd write down any terms I don't recognize. And then I'd find a video on those terms. So for example, I'd watch a video on I just write business internet or commercial internet. And I'd hear somewhere they would mention the word SD-WAN. I didn't know what that was. So I would type it SD-WAN. And I hear them talking about IP addresses and, now I type in IP, like it just kind of went to this long chain of video after video after video after video after video, trying to figure out what all of this is. And then, to find out that when you start talking about these services and you think you know them, everyone has different jargon for all of these types of products and services. So that's where it gets even more challenging, depending on who you're talking to, depending on how they learn this industry. You now have to kind of learn like their jargon and figure out what they're saying, even though you can know the industry yourself. So that's where it gets even more challenging of, okay, conceptually I understand channel sales, but why is there 8 different phrases for internet? Why some people call it copper broadband, some people call it, MSO services, some people call it coax, RG6, RF. It just goes on and on and on. It's the same product. It's just everyone is using different lingo.
Wow.
It must be tough being independent in some ways when you're in the channel because you're not getting this kind of enablement necessarily from your employer. You're responsible for your own growth, your own professional development, your own continued education. What has that experience been like for you?
So basically, as a channel manager, I mean, I'm still under a major corporation because I'm basically managing the channel partners for the company that I'm with. But at the same time, I'm the only person in my region. So luckily, I have like other peers that are there regionally. So I have a peer in in the southeast and the northwest. Yeah, I have different peers in different places, but we're all scattered and largely everyone's busy. So it is challenging kind of taking on a lot of this stuff yourself because the industry is rapidly changing all the time. And, I feel like in the channel, people know like their corners of the tech industry, but you can meet people that could be playing in your corner, but they're now in their other corner of services. Like for example, there's many partners that only sell one type of service. So there's partners out there and resellers where they only deal with call center solutions. Hey, I'm only going to sell call center solutions or contact center solutions, and that's the only word I'm going to deal with. And that's it. I'm not going to deal in cloud. I'm not going to touch cybersecurity. I'm not going to touch anything else. Then you have other people that, hey, I'm just going to deal in cybersecurity and that's it. And then there's people that try to do everything. And yeah, it can be very, very challenging just in general. I mean, I think for partners, the great thing about this industry right now is that we have these big entities called distributors. And distributors are essentially the gateway for anyone to become a partner. So how that works is, let's say I were to go downstairs and I would talk to a concierge and I would have a conversation. They say, hey, you know what? I really want to get into tech. I really want to start selling cloud solutions or cybersecurity solutions because I meet business owners all the time in this neighborhood that I'm in. So I would basically say, great, hop on a call with this distributor. Well, first I would give them kind of a briefing of what the channel is, how it works, all of that. Once I do that and they're interested, I would get them connected to a distributor. The distributor would basically say, hey, I appreciate you reaching out. Our company has direct relationships with over 100 to 200 plus companies. So anyone you could think of, whether it's Microsoft, Amazon, Palo Alto Networks, Fortinet, Zscaler, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. They would just give the whole list and they would basically say, you can join our network. Just all you have to do is just sign a form. You can resell and sell all of these products and solutions. All that we ask is we just want a split of the commissions. Usually it's a small split, typically, and it ranges depending on the distributor. 25% of the commission will go to the distributor. Maybe it'll be 30%, maybe it's 20%. But then from there, that person who yesterday was concierge can still be concierge on their day to day, but on their off time, they could be reselling various services to various people. I mean, if they're talking to someone and they're like, hey, I'm opening up a restaurant down the street and I haven't ordered anything yet. I'm just trying to figure out, how to get my water there. They could say, hey, well, let me work with my distributor and let me give you options for internet services. Let me give you options for phone services, for security camera services. And then after that, if those sales are made and those transactions are done, that partner who, like I was saying yesterday, was a concierge could basically get a 10 to 20% residual. Typically, I mean, it ranges depending on the company, but that's usually like the industry standard average of the services that they sold monthly, nonstop, continuously, as long as that customer keeps the services. And then if that customer refers them to another person, hey, you set me up great. talk to my friend over here, talk to my friend over there. Hey, I have 10 other locations. Hey, I have 20 locations. That money can stack up really, really quickly. And it's just a great way for people to get into the tech industry with skipping all of the applying and the boot camps and all of that and just jump right in.
Yeah. So how does someone go from concierge? Like, who do they like? A lot of times when I'll talk to people who are interested in becoming SDRs, like pivoting, and like usually a lot of my guidance is around like the ICP, right? Like the hiring manager, like what that looks like, how to find them on LinkedIn. So who's the contact if you, let's say you are a concierge, but then I'm also curious, like if you're coming straight from a completely different industry, what kind of titles do they look to? I guess, is it someone like you to get in touch with if they want to
Yeah.
resell?
Yeah, definitely. So the main thing is you want to get in touch with a distributor. There are probably 10 to 15 major distributors worldwide, and each distributor focuses with different companies. And just to re-clarify, the distributor is that company that has the direct relationships with all of these major products and services that you can sell. And we're talking everything ranging from cloud to hardware, like even printers and computers. I mean,
They
everything
get you
that,
the product, right?
yeah,
Like that's where you
yeah,
go to get the
exactly.
product.
And there's all different ones depending on the location that you're in and depending on the products that you're interested in. So what I usually recommend for people is to get with a channel manager so they can kind of have that conversation and figure out, hey, based on like what you're interested in and where you're located and where you want to take your potential business, I recommend this distributor or that distributor. So I'm a channel manager that does that for people that reach out. So anyone that reaches out to me on LinkedIn, hey, I'm interested in the channel. I want to learn more about it. I have no problem. I sit down with people on calls for 30 minutes. I just kind of pick their brain a little bit about where they're heading. And then just based off of a few questions, I can then relate them to, hey, you should talk to this distribution company or that distribution company or this one or that one. And then once they sign up with a distributor, there's no cost. They're not paying anything to sign up. They're not paying anything to have the rights to resell. They completely just sign a form and then they could basically just start selling literally the next day and start, getting into the process of closing deals.
Wow.
Yeah,
That's
you got to
awesome.
be super self-directed, right? Like I imagine
Yeah.
you're so free, right? That maybe there are some skills or inherent personality traits that you could think of for yourself, Ty, that have made you so successful in this role. Like, what is it that gave you the strength and dedication and skill set to be successful in such a entrepreneurial type of position?
I'm still technically, under the corporate umbrella for now, but like speaking on behalf of the partners that I work with, like their mindset, especially the ones that are making multi millions and millions and millions of dollars. I mean, we have partners that are up in the hundreds of millions of dollars as well. I mean, yeah, their mindset is totally different from a lot of the mindsets that they normally encounter, but it's not anything that can't be flipped. It's really like a light switch. Most of the partners that I know that are making hundreds of millions of dollars, they started from just being salespeople. They were a salesperson once, or they were a channel manager, like in the role that I'm in now. They realized that, hey, there's people out there that are doing almost the exact same job as me. They're just doing it independently and they're doing it on a very, very large scale with really, really big companies. And they're earning 10 to 20% residuals from companies that are spending 10 to $20 million in cloud and telecommunications and tech services yearly. And once that flip happened with them, it was just, okay, I'm going to play my exit. I'm going to go build my own partnership. I'm going to, bring a couple friends with me, hire some people, and then I'm going to build this new company. And then ironically, how that ends up working is as they build up their company, they're going to start hiring salespeople and SDRs and engineers and all of that, which then starts the cycle again because those salespeople over time are going to realize, hey, the person that's above me became the CEO, not from working up the corporate ladder, but from leaving their job as a salesperson, starting this company, building up their book of business, and then hired me as their salesperson to be frontline to basically sell their products for them. And then now they end up leaving, starting their own company, and the cycle continues. And that's the cycle that's literally playing out right now. I just want the cycle to play out evenly everywhere. I want these companies to be in all neighborhoods, which is my wish.
That's so neat because you see it in like I'm thinking about like SaaS startups
Yeah.
specifically. You'll see like SaaS startup, you start as an SDR, you become an AE. Usually at some point, depending on your personality, you think, oh, like, I want to do this. Like whatever your thought, for me, I'll talk about like my motive. I love strategy. And I'm like getting to that point in my career where I'm like, I want to be more part of strategy. And I'm like, Zoya, if you want that, like in the near term future, make it yourself. But the interesting thing is we're in your space, it's all the same products too. So it truly is a circle. It's like sell the product, establish your space, right? Where you're selling it, grow big enough so that you need more people and they sell the same product. That is so fascinating. And yeah, I guess it
Yeah.
goes to show there's that much demand for it, right? That if this cycle can keep happening and keep happening, it just means there's like still not enough people bringing the product to market.
Yeah, yeah, definitely. Because it's just, yeah, as we have more and more businesses and as we use technology more and more, there's going to be more things to sell. Even if it's not physical companies, it's just even stuff in the data center. When we talk about AI and we talk about like just all of these prompts, where are they heading? They're all heading to its data that we're pushing out into our computer that's going out to some server somewhere. Someone needs to put the physical servers inside of that data center. That is something that can be sold on the channel. Someone needs to manage the data that's actually in there. That's another thing that can be sold on the channel. Someone needs to now protect that data from hackers and other people from getting access to it. Another thing that can be sold to the channel. The physical fiber that connects that data center back to the other person that's requesting it, that physical fiber cable, that dark fiber, that can be sold on the channel. So all of it, from the computer that end user is using, the computer that I'm using right now, like every single aspect of it can be sold on the channel independently without having to work for these companies. And I think once people kind of get that flip in their head, it really makes them think because there's people that are great salespeople and they're great and they're selling one product. They're making, hundreds of thousands of dollars as account executives selling one product. Imagine if you had 100.
What I love
Yeah.
about that too, I'll jump in real quick, is it's so buyer focused. Like if you're in the channel and you have a suite of potential products you can sell, you're actually able to tailor a solution in a way that maybe you couldn't if you were in-house selling a single solution. I think there's value, and you mentioned people killing it selling one product. There's value in specializing, but I love how you can enter the channel and really have a huge variety of options you can position to the customer as they're building out their physical space. It's such a benefit and such a buyer focused approach to sales.
Yeah, yeah, 100%. And the other aspect is that you can also, depending on what you're selling, you can really be strategic and choose who you're selling to, because you don't necessarily have to just sell IT products to IT people. There might, maybe you like the marketing and HR side of it. I mean, there's an entire booming industry of selling AI chat boxes. There's plenty of companies that are going that direction. I mean, we're seeing it every time you go to a website and there's AI chat box that pops up and says, "Do you need help?" I mean, all of that can be sold. There are major companies, Zoom's in that area, Five9 is in that area. There's all different companies that are going down that path, and it's all products that can be sold within the channel. But when you're selling that, you're not selling that to an IT person. You're selling that to now maybe somebody that's on the customer service side, marketing. When you're talking about like call center solutions, you would think that that's more IT, but it's actually more tied into potentially HR or like a chief people officer, because the call center employees themselves, need to be retained. But in order for them to be retained at that company and enjoy their job and enjoy like their lifestyle, not leave somewhere else, which now kind of affects HR metrics, they need to have really good software to use. So that's where HR kind of gets in that buying decision more than potentially an IT person. IT person just has to make sure it works. So yeah, it's all over the place in terms of how you can position it, depending on what your skill set is and what you're comfortable with.
Yeah, we got into a little bit of trouble selling to IT folks. I was at a IT software company before I moved out to Japan. And actually, anytime the IT person got involved in purchasing what we were selling, which was a wide variety of help desk and cybersecurity solutions, IT person, probably Ty, you could do this because of your industry knowledge, your hands-on experience. They could definitely help the deal. They could also way block the deal because they were
Yeah.
the IT industry expert. So they were ready to poke the holes because that was their job. So, it's all about relationship building and seeing if the person can be an asset in your sales process. But IT folks weren't always the most excited to talk to the salespeople, actually, for me.
Yeah, 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 absolutely, and that's something that I think that people going into the channel can be very, very strategic about, hey, let me sell products that really, affect the CEO or the CMO or the CPO instead of products that are more geared to the CISO or the, chief technology officer.
So I remember during one of our chats, you told me about this really cool concept of people building these businesses, right, as channel partners. And then at a certain point, you said some people even decide to sell their business. Can you tell us about that?
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. So basically the whole channel world, there's a lot of different ways to enter and you don't necessarily have to just bootstrap it. It's a business. So the same way that people can start their businesses now, venture capitalists, you can use accelerators because the model is pretty straightforward. It's really just, you could estimate 10 to 20%, even if you want to be on the low side and say, all right, 10% residual off of the monthly rate of the products services that I'm going to sell. You can look at, all right, how many customers am I going to work with throughout the year? And these customers, how big are they? What's their revenue? What percentage are they spending in IT services? Maybe you might want to estimate they're spending 5% of their revenue in IT. So now you can kind of take that number and, whether that number is depending on the size of the company, that number could be, maybe it's 5 million, maybe it's 1 million. Yeah. If it's a smaller company, maybe it's $100,000. But if now you're getting of that spend, 10%, that's 10% that's going to come in now monthly. So this is numbers you can just put on a paper and basically say, hey, when I build my company, this is what I'm shooting for. This is the numbers that I plan to have in year one, the numbers I plan to have in year two, year three, year four. In the same way that you can have your financial plan for a startup, this is technically a startup. You can kind of go the venture capitalist route. And I've seen people take their companies to accelerators and get their do those little like the 6 month boot camps where they give up 6% of their company, but they get maybe 100,000 back and they have a 2 million valuation company. But then from there, once you put your plan into action and you grow it, no matter if you did it with venture capitalist money, no matter if you did it, if you're by yourself, that company is now worth something. If you're consistently getting residual income, let's say you're getting residual income yearly of maybe if it's even $500,000, for example, or if it's $1 million, for example, that money that you're getting in cash flow, you can now take that to private equity person and basically now get a valuation of your company. Maybe it's 5x of what your annual revenue is. Maybe it's 10x depending on how they value it. But that's a company that can now be sold. You can now sell that company out and just exit the business and walk away with, potentially 5 million, 4 million, 3, like depending on what it was worth. And then from there, you can just either do it again or just live out happily with your money and do a different business and that's it. And that's the way that it is for a lot of companies right now. There's a lot of acquisitions in this industry. And if you want to date it back to like a real life situation, many people don't know this, but Mark Cuban's first $1 million came from this industry. Back in the 80s, Mark Cuban followed this exact path of what I'm talking about. He was a salesperson at a computer store, and I guess he wanted to sell computers directly, like door to door to people, but he was told just to be in the store. He ended up quitting. And then I guess he reached out to the actual computer and internet company and asked to be a reseller. And they gave him a license to resell. And then he started reselling services all throughout Dallas, Texas. He ended up hitting the jackpot by really meeting a very, very successful person in Dallas, who was Ross Perot, who was someone that ran for president back in the 90s. He was a very well-known billionaire at the time, had multiple, just assets in the oil industry. And he basically ended up selling like internet services and just email software and screen sharing software to Ross Perot back at that time. and started making residual income to the tune of $1 million to $2 million per year. He ended up selling his company after about 4 or 5 years for $6 million. And then he took that money and basically just, I guess he bought a ticket to fly around the world, flew around the world for like 4 years, met his future business partner who then started his broadcast.com company, which he ended up now selling that for 5.7 billion. But he wouldn't have met those people and got into that industry if he didn't make his first millions through the channel sales industry. And that was back in the late 80s. And a lot of people want to be like Mark Cuban. So I tell people all the time, this should be an industry that you all should at least consider and look into because, one of the most famous billionaires did it to get ahead. And I think that it's still valid. I think people can still do it today.
Such a good story. Yeah. Even myself, I was not very familiar with the channel sales, channel partners. That's why I wanted to have you on because I remember the first time we talked and then you put me in touch with someone also, Michaela. Love to have her on the pod. And I was like, wow, like this is so neat. Why aren't more people speaking about this? And it's in tech, like I I feel like I'm exposed to a lot of tech sales and people aren't speaking about this extremely entrepreneurial, extremely high earning role where you can even sell it. Like that's so cool. Like again, if we're thinking about, we talk so much about AE, right? So I really want to talk about like this other option. But if we think about AE, it's like you put a lot of time into your career as an AE. And then at the end of it, imagine if you had something that you could sell too, like you've just been compounding and building and then you can sell it. So it's so interesting. It's so neat to just learn about the different um, ways that people can grow their career in tech sales.
Yeah, yeah, definitely. I mean, so like, and I'm sure since you've been in California and Carolyn, since you've been in New York as well. I mean, I'm sure that you've ran into the people that they worked at some SaaS company and there was some big boom and they ended up making whether it was 500,000 in a year or maybe 800,000, or some people made $1 million, from some new software that came to market. And I always think like, that's super awesome to make 800,000 a year, 1 million in a year. But once you saturated those Fortune 500 companies, now we go on to year two, where you're able to do the same thing. What if you could just do that once and then just walk away and just live off those residuals? Because the residuals off of $1 million in sales with most products should be minimum $100,000 per month ongoing, as long as those companies keep that service.
Yeah, it's such a
Yeah.
sustainable way to attain financial freedom, I guess.
Yeah, definitely. 100%.
Ty, you recently won, I don't want to embarrass you, but recently won the top regional channel manager in the Pacific Southwest.
I
Congratulations
appreciate it. Yeah. Thank you.
from Intellisys. Anything you can point to that is a lesson you learned along the way to get to the top?
So that award was for it was basically for channel managers, and it was voted on by the actual Intelisys channel manager team. And Intelisys is one of like the major distributors. There's a bunch of really large distributors, but they're one of the largest that's out there. And I think the reason why I think I got that award was really for the amount of partners and just outreach that I'm doing to really just bring people into the channel. Because largely as channel managers, our job is to basically work with partners that are in our area. So any partners that fall into our geographic location, we basically help them, we empower them, we help them sell, we help them close deals, et cetera, et cetera. We usually get, X amount of cuts off of whichever deal, depending on the comp plan. And that's typically how channel managers operate. For me, I think that this whole year, kind of like doing platforms like this, I did a lot of outreach. I've been to a lot of different cities, just on my own off time on the weekends, and just basically just doing things to just spread the word on channel, but not just, hey, this is how channel works. I've really tried to get into the weeds with a lot of different partners and really help them get their first deal. I mean, like there's partners out here in Las Vegas where I basically said, hey, there's a new casino that's going to be built on this date. Let's both walk there together. Let's go and find the VP of leasing, because someone's leasing out all of those different suites to all different stores and shops and restaurants. Let's figure out who that person is. Let's talk to them. Let's see if they have a go-to contact for all the different restaurants that are coming in. There's going to be 30 restaurants, and from there, you talk to the VP of leasing, they don't have contact, so now you get the partner involved. Hey, this partner is going to be your contact, and then from there, now that partner is working with all different restaurants. And then it's not just like that one location. All these restaurants are chains. So they make a relationship with one. Now it's like, oh, hey, what about our location in Miami? What about our location in Texas? Then you make a relationship with another chain, another chain, another chain. But these were essentially some of the things that I was doing to really help empower my partners from like the ground level of, hey, there's this going on, there's that going on, like let's go and actually figure this out. I mean, going back to kind of the main topic of real estate, commercial real estate is a huge resource for people in the channel because most businesses, first thing they need to do is to get a piece of real estate, whether that is leasing out a small office, whether that's getting a building. So commercial real estate people know who all the businesses are that are coming to a city. They're usually the first ones to know. So if you're trying to figure out, hey, what business should I sell? I'm selling this location. Who should I talk to? All you have to do is just find a partnership with them. And really the main partnership is that a lot of the commercial real estate people need help on the telecommunications side. They can answer questions on, is there water? Yeah, it's water. It's on. Yeah, there's electrical. Yes, there's sewer. But with internet, there's a quality of service aspect that can't properly be answered by most people unless you're in the industry. So they could say, yes, there's internet here, but there's a film company coming in. That film company needs to have, a gig of internet speed upload. So it needs a fiber connection. Is there fiber here? Most commercial real estate people aren't going to be able to know that the answer to that question. There might be a construction company. Hey, we have CAD files, which are huge files for architectural, designs, and we need a 10 gigabit upload speed, 10 gigabits per second. Can I get that at this property? Most commercial real estate people don't know the answer to that. So you as an IT person, as a partner, you have the ability to get that information because you have access to all the internet companies. You have access to sell everyone. You have access to get any information that you need about technology services. You can feed your commercial real estate partners that information. And then from there, since you're helping them close their deal of getting some big tech company to their space, on the flip side, it's just, hey, since I helped you, let me know if they do want to purchase that 10 gigabit upload speed of internet. I can help them out. They're going to most likely, hopefully, are going to pass that lead back over to you as the partner. So you can now close that deal for that customer. And then once you're getting the internet done, you can now build up into cybersecurity and all the other products they can sell, the multiple locations, wide area network, that everything. But that's one strategy that you can use just to be successful in this industry. But this was a lot of the stuff that I was doing actively with partners to really just get them engaged and to make sure that everybody wins. And the last and final piece was really the whole diversity piece. I'm really big on just trying to diversify the whole channel industry. I would love, just big IT companies to not just be in certain cities in America. I would love to see one in Southside Chicago. I'd love to see one in the Bronx, New York. I would love to see, just multiple huge, IT companies scattered throughout, like East Miami or West Miami. Like I would love to see just really just everyone, no matter where they are, because, kids can't choose where they grow up. So I just want them to just be in every area. So kids have an option to just learn about this industry, be a part of these companies, or have the ability to start their own.
Well, we're coming up on time. We like to ask all of our guests the same two questions. So 2 questions we like to ask at the end of every podcast. The first is, tell us about your first big commission check purchase.
Yeah. So I think the first big commission check purchase recently, just in the past few years, was I think buying my wife like a really, really nice trip to Monterey. She, really likes to travel. So I definitely found like the best hotel that you could find out there. And it was a while we were out there. I think it was about maybe a week or so. And, we did all the excursions and all of that. And, it's not anything crazy, like, but it was just something that I wanted to do just to show thank you for the support, because it's a team effort. I mean, just being in IT and tech, it's not the easiest thing, when you have to do travel and all of that, but having a supportive other is huge. So I wanted to make sure to definitely pay that back. And she's also in the channel too. So she she understands more than anyone what I go through on a day to day.
Did you meet through channel sales?
So we actually met through residential sales way back in the day. Yeah. So I think a trainer at that time transitioning back into sales, and she was just coming into sales at that time. So yeah.
Love it. Get the
Power
whole
couple
family involved.
energy.
Yeah.
Family
Yeah.
business.
And our second question, Caroline, do you want to ask that one?
Yeah, absolutely. Our second question that we ask everyone is, what are you currently selling internally or promoting that we should know about? We have any folks on the call who could buy what Ty Smith is selling? What would you want them to hear?
So at the moment, the only thing that I am trying to do is to really get more people into the channel. So I really advise people, if you have questions about it, if you know people that might be interested, or if you just want to learn more, I am willing to talk to really anyone that has an ear that wants to know more about it. So you can find me on my LinkedIn. You can, find me just, I go to various tech events as well. But yeah, I just really am just offering information, really not even selling. I'm just offering information for free. And I am partnering with a few organizations. So there's a nonprofit called the Exposure, Inclusion, and Diversity Council that basically has a few other channel managers in the industry like myself that are doing outreach and really going out to different places and avenues and platforms to teach about the channel. So I am partnering with that organization. I'm also partnering with a travel organization called the Black Tech Retreat, where we're doing different retreats in all different areas. Last year we did Bali. This year we're probably going to be doing a new country, new area. So more to come on that, depending on the airing of this. But that is something that I just want to do, is just really just help people learn more about this whole industry. So reach out. I don't bite. I will talk your ear off because I love talking about this stuff, and hopefully I can inspire someone to tell someone else that this industry exists and people should consider it.
Thank you so much. You're
Yeah.
so generous with your time with us on this show and also opening your LinkedIn and your life to folks who want to learn more. Thank you so much, Ty.
Yeah, yeah, no problem at all. And I appreciate it. I appreciate you both having me. I mean, that this is just super cool to just being a part of this. I can't wait to hit the subscribe button on my side. Everyone, subscribe to the pod, and I'm looking forward to all the future episodes. So I will be a fan just like everyone else of this show too.
Yes. And we've got to get you. We'll see. You and I will connect about getting you involved in Uncapped as well, because you have so much to share. And I'm so excited. I am so thrilled that you were on our pod today. Thanks for joining the Rep Matters podcast. And we will definitely be seeing you around and seeing you on LinkedIn and doing really big things.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. Thank you so much. It was so nice doing this, and I appreciate everyone for listening. So thank you. Thank you.
Everyone get in touch with Ty. Thanks, Ty.
Absolutely. Thanks.
Bye.
Thanks for listening to this episode of Rep Matters, the podcast for sales professionals who become top performers. If you enjoyed this episode, make sure to follow Rep Matters wherever you listen to your favorite podcasts, or access all episodes at marketersindemand.com/repmatters. See you next time.